Chapter 1. A Shartastic morning. Max woke up to the familiar rumble in his stomach. Not again, he muttered. As soon as his feet hit the floor, a loud shart escaped. Welp, there's the wake-up call. At school, the same thing happened. Jake, Maya, and the rest of the Shart Squad were all victims of their morning sharts. It was just another typical day in Shartington, until they heard a strange announcement over the loudspeaker. Attention students, the principal's voice boomed. Today we welcome a special guest, Mrs. Clean. She's here to show us how to clean up our act. Max exchanged a look with Jake and Maya. Mrs. Clean? This can't be good. Chapter 2. The shart that stopped recess. In the middle of recess, just as Maya let out an impressive shart, the air around them changed. A shiny white van pulled up to the school with a large logo on the side, Mrs. Clean's Perfect Cleaning Solutions. Out stepped a tall, stern-looking woman in all white, her hair perfectly pinned and her hands clutching a broom like a sword. Hello, children, Mrs. Clean said, her voice icy. I've been sent here to clean up this town, starting with this filthy school. Jake, who had just finished sharting, looked worried. I think we're in trouble. Chapter 3. A shart at lunchtime had just begun, and the Shart Squad was sitting down to enjoy their meals. As usual, the cafeteria was filled with the sound of sharts echoing from one table to the next. Just as Max was about to take a bite of his sandwich, he heard Mrs. Clean's voice behind him. Disgusting, she shrieked, pointing at a kid who had just shart. This whole place needs to be scrubbed from top to bottom. Mrs. Clean pulled out a large spray bottle and began spraying everything in sight. The kid stared in horror as the cafeteria turned spotless, losing its usual quirky charm. Where's the fun in being too clean? Maya whispered. We've got to stop her. Chapter 4. A shart in the hallway. Max was walking down the hallway when he felt another shart coming. Before he could stop it, it echoed off the walls. But instead of laughter, he heard a clucking sound. Mrs. Clean stood at the end of the hallway, her eyes narrowing. This sharting business stops now, she said. And when I'm done, Shartington will be the cleanest town in the country. I'm turning this place into a pristine pumpkin patch. A pumpkin patch? Max gasped. We can't let her get away with this. Chapter 5. The plan. After shart practice. After sharting during gym class, Max, Jake, and Maya met in the library to figure out how to stop Mrs. Clean. She's already cleaned up half the school, Jake said. If we don't act soon, we're all going to be surrounded by pumpkins and spotless floors. Max had an idea. Maybe we can reverse her cleaning powers with something messy. But it has to be something big, something only we can do. The group thought for a moment, then Maya grinned. I've got it. We'll give her the biggest shart attack Shartington has ever seen. Chapter 6. The shart heard round the town. As the sun set over Shartington, Mrs. Clean was in the town square, turning the fountain into a giant pumpkin display. Soon, this town will be my perfect pumpkin patch, she said to herself. But just as she lifted her broom to finish her work, she heard it, a deep rumble that echoed across the square. PFFFFFTTTT. Max and the Shart Squad stood at the edge of the square, letting out synchronized sharts. The smell and sound were so powerful that Mrs. Clean dropped her broom in shock. No, she screamed, as the pumpkins she had planted began to wilt. What have you done? Chapter 7. A shart in the library. The Shart Squad chased Mrs. Clean through the streets of Shartington, sharting as they ran. Every time one of them let one loose, Mrs. Clean grew weaker, her perfectly pressed white outfit getting dirtier by the second. Finally, they cornered her in the library. Maya let out one final shart, and Mrs. Clean dropped to the floor, defeated. I just wanted to make everything clean, she whimpered. But I guess Shartington isn't meant to be spotless. Max grinned. Clean's good and all, but a little mess is what makes this town special. Chapter 8. The final shart. The next morning, the town of Shartington woke up to find that Mrs. Clean had left for good. The pumpkins were gone, and everything was back to normal, including the sharts. At school, Max, Jake, and Maya sat in the cafeteria, laughing about their victory. Shartington wouldn't be Shartington without a little mess, Max said. Or a lot of sharts, Jake added, just as another one echoed across the room. As the Shart Squad shared a round of high-fives, they knew that no matter who came to town next, nothing could take away the quirky, shart-filled charm of Shartington. The end for now.